A Hall of Famer joins us today. We talk cornerbacks at the start.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're starting off the month of July, everybody. Welcome in. Matt Derry with you. Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a Tuesday, July 1st and a Wednesday, July 2nd. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Shout out to our everydayers, the everyday listeners that watch and listen to the podcast daily. That includes those of you checking us out on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Today, legendary Lions VP of Communications was there 36 years. Bill Keenist will join us. Bill just recently got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame Award of Excellence last weekend. The likes of Matthew Stafford, Eric Kramer, Jim Caldwell, Rod Marinelli. Come on now. Shovel sharp, pick is sharp, Rod Marinelli. All were there to be there for Bill, and very, very cool. He's going to join us momentarily here on the program on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Folks, we are just 15 days away from rookies reporting for Lions training camp down in Allen Park. All right, before we talk to Bill Keenist, and we give him a lot of time because we go through a lot of memories and great stories with Bill and talk some Lions history. I mentioned yesterday about Pro Football Focus. We were talking about cornerbacks and where the Lions sit right now in terms of some of the guys that they have and kind of discussed the Pittsburgh-Miami Jalen Ramsey trade yesterday. What I mentioned yesterday, that the Lions do have a top 6 corner in the NFL, according to PFF, and that is DJ Reed, of course, the free agent who was signed away from the Jets by the Lions. PFF has Sauce Gardner ranked number 1 in terms of corners in the league. The fine New York Jets shutdown corner, the Detroit native. Pat Surtain of the Broncos second, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Johnson, Derek Stingley, and then DJ Reed. But what I didn't mention yesterday in talking about how the Lions have 2 top 6 safeties, really need their corners to come on this year. A guy like Terrion Arnold get better. Amik Robertson have the kind of year that he had. See progress from Ennis Rakestraw, et cetera, et cetera. But what I didn't mention is that DJ Reed came in number 6 on this list from Pro Football Focus in an article written by John Costco the other day. But what I didn't mention from this list is that the Lions upgraded in a big way because Carlton Davis, who was their best corner a year ago, and I would have loved to have seen back with Detroit, was ranked 18th on this list. Davis, of course, signing a free agent deal with the New England Patriots before the Lions got DJ Reed. Well, if Carlton Davis is 18th and DJ Reed is 6th, that's a big upgrade for this team. And if DJ Reed can come in and be that guy that just goes up against the top receivers on the other team. And the Lions are going to be seeing a lot of good ones. Justin Jefferson, of course, in the division twice, and the crew in Green Bay. And we know how good the Bears receivers are, but and the schedule's brutal, right? But if DJ Reed can be a top 6 corner, and the Lions' best cornerback from a year ago is 18th in Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold not even on that list of top 32 corners, neither was Amik Robertson, that's a big-time upgrade. And maybe a signing we don't talk enough about, because I sat here on this show and said I'd love for the team to keep Carlton Davis because you can never have enough good corners. But to get a guy that's 12 slots ahead of him, that's pretty damn good. All right, Bill Keenist coming up next, legendary Lions VP of Communications, Public Relations. I remember when the Lions upset, was it when they upset Green Bay and Jim Schwartz did the fist pump and there was Keenist next to him. Bill's a Lions legend. We're going to talk to him coming up next here on Locked On Lions. But first, Locked On Lions brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your receipts, accounts, investments, spending, everything, all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. How's everything in one app made it easier to manage your money day to day? Simple. It just is. Monarch Money has that for you. Whether you and your spouse have different accounts, you can manage it all in one place. It's the one-stop shop. It's Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, folks, this is long overdue. Honored and privileged to talk to a Lions legend, 36 years with the organization, longtime VP of Communications, and now Hall of Famer. Joining us on Locked On Lions today, the great Bill Keenist is with us. William, what's happening?
It's great to be with you, Matt. We shared a lot of that journey over the years, so it's wonderful to join you.
So, all right, take me back to when you found out. I think it was last December, I believe.
Right.
Who calls you? How do you find out that you're going into the Hall of Fame and this area of excellence? I mean, it's pretty cool.
Well, I was actually on my way to Chicago with my girlfriend and her son, and I got the call, and I got it from Joe Brown of the NFL office, the all-time head of PR there. He worked there for 50 years, and Joe's on the PR committee. And we pulled off the road. It was ideal timing. We were right at a roadside stop, and Joel told me, and I mean, you grew up in Cleveland, right? So
yes.
How many times have you been to the Hall? I know I grew up in Pittsburgh. And,
zillions, of course.
Yeah. So I remember my first trip there vividly in 1973, and subsequent trips with Barry and Charlie Sanders and Calvin, of course. And it was just overwhelming. And, you know, I grew up in a small river town south of Pittsburgh, right on the Monongahela River. And I really believe growing up in that era, in the 60s and 70s, in that era and in that place, just, you know, it was providential. I was going to be a sports fan and hopefully work in the business. And I've been blessed and fortunate. And like I said, being at Canton last week, being at the Hall of Fame, standing on the podium with Dan Fouts. And I remember watching him when I was in high school and college, and it's just overwhelming, but you really appreciate all of those who rode along with you. And there've been so many, and to have Coach Caldwell there, Coach Marinelli, Goster Cherilus, who I had a wonderful relationship with, and Eric Kramer, who I go back, you know, to the early 90s with. And then, of course, Matthew. I mean, as much as I was overwhelmed and thrilled that Matthew was coming in for me, I was, I think, equally thrilled that so many people that were there that I've talked about Matthew to so many times, and what a wonderful person he is, let alone a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Just for them to see him show up for a PR guy, you know, was pretty overwhelming. But
so we got to lock this in. So if Matthew Stafford shows up, that means eventually you're going to be on the Kelly Stafford podcast, right? Locked On Lions, right into the Kelly podcast.
Yeah, there you go. How about that? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But Kelly, but for him to fly from LA to Canton to hang with you and to be there, I saw the pictures. I thought that was pretty sweet.
Well, actually, he flew from Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Still, because Kelly and the girls were down there, but it was his youngest daughter's birthday. So he flew in on his youngest daughter's birthday, and then obviously made it back.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to enjoy the rest of the afternoon and evening, but just overwhelmed with all of that. And again, profound appreciation and gratitude for everything.
You spent 36 years with the Lions. It was not easy, Bill. You and I had our moments, other media
we did.
But like, you know, you were tough, but like you were loyal to that franchise, man, in a
Yeah.
big way.
Right.
Did you hear from the Fords? Were they a part of some of this too, to tap you on the back?
I talked to Mrs. Ford last year when I found out, and she was wonderful. I heard from Bill Ford; he was wonderful. And yeah, I was loyal, and I was loyal a lot of the times when I believed there was a right and a wrong way to do it. And if I felt something was needed corrected, in the majority of the media, including yourself, if there was something reported that wasn't accurate, if you did that, you would want to know that because of your approach. You would
Sure.
want to know from an integrity standpoint. And the absolute majority of the media that I dealt with, whenever I not in front of anybody, not for public, notice, but when I would reach out with things, I truly felt it was the right thing to do. And most of the time, it was just to correct something that wasn't accurate. And I just felt that was the right way to do your job. I mean, I started in my career wanting to get into sports journalism at Ohio University.
Yeah.
And I did internships with newspapers and radio stations and TV stations. And so I had an appreciation, I believe, that I was able to use in an appropriate way for your job, for what you guys did and had to do. So, I mean, obviously, Matt, you've seen it. The evolution of our media world has been dramatic. I mean, going back
It's
to when
insanity.
it's
insanity.
insanity. And
Yeah.
I mean, going back to you when you and I started in it, I really am thankful, and a lot of my colleagues share it. And I think some of the media from your generation would share it. I think there was a golden age of sports and media and relationships, and I'm just thankful that I worked the vast majority of my career during that golden age.
Bill Keenist with us, NFL Hall of Famer now, VP of Communications, over 36 years with the Lions, became the team historian for a little while. Bill, you also had some of your guys with you there.
Yeah.
Many names that maybe folks don't know, but I saw the picture of Mike Murray. I literally
Yeah.
like, oh my God. I mean, Mike,
Yeah.
when Mike left the Lions, Mike got out of the business and Mike
Yeah.
was nowhere to be found. I know Mike is still here and he's doing
Yeah.
great, but he kept a low profile. Obviously,
Right.
Matt Barnhart.
Mhm.
And then Eamon Reynolds, who's
Yeah.
now there and as your old job. I got to be cool to see those guys who you all kind of mentored, right? To be there with you.
No question. And, I was there because of a lot of people that helped me. And even the role, Matt, I learned this from Joe Gibbs, I believe, my first job in the NFL with Washington, with the Washington Redskins. And Joe taught me how much everything mattered, anything that touched the team. And I will say this, that I think Joe Gibbs is the greatest sportsman of our lifetime. What he did in the NFL and then what he's done in NASCAR is never to be repeated. And it's all about leadership and doing things the right way. And so I learned a lot from Joe. And I also learned that we have to be a servant leader. We have to have a servant mentality in our role. We're serving the players, the coaches, the organization, the media, the community. And as long as we make that a priority and realize the importance of anything we do that touches the team, and make sure it's right, then I think you can succeed.
Bill Keenist with us. You just mentioned Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
And that's the best guy you've dealt with or worked with and learned so much from. Who was the best in Detroit? Who was it? Matthew? Was it? I mean, I know how close you were with Jim Caldwell.
Yeah.
You and Wayne. Come on. I mean, you were close with all those guys.
It's hard. Like, who's your favorite kid?
Right.
But, I mean, the two head coaches that were there, Coach Caldwell and Coach Marinelli, are the highest character people I'll ever meet in my life.
Wow.
And even though we didn't have the success under Rod, what I saw him do and how he led that team and how he made no excuses.
No.
And go back to that 08 season. And when you think about it, Matt, it would have been so easy for that team to break and explode, in the media.
Yeah.
But it never did. And I absolutely believe Jim Caldwell. I love the guy, and he's a great NFL coach. And one thing that I don't hear enough of, and maybe it's because of what I'm about to say, but the NFL didn't start its salary cap for rookies until 2011. Okay. And when you think back to the team that Rod coached and the team that Jim Schwartz inherited, and then the team that Jim Caldwell inherited, when we drafted Calvin second overall, he's the highest paid player on the team in the salary cap era. 2 years later, we draft Matthew. He's the highest paid player on the team. And then a year later, we draft Ndamukong. He's the highest paid player on the team. So we were hamstrung because, and it's not an opinion, it's just logic, because the majority of our cap went to those three guys. And once they signed their rookie cap or contract, the next one is going to be incrementally larger. So thankfully, and I look at the great job Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are doing, and they are. And I look at Hutchinson, number 2 overall, rookie weight scale. Panay Sewell, rookie weight scale. Jahmyr Gibbs, rookie weight scale. So they've been able to, because of where they were drafting, like we had been for years, take advantage of that in a way that destroy the cap. So, like John Madden says, your record is what it says it is. And there were times ours wasn't that good, but I commend what Dan and Brad have done. And it's hard to pick out favorites. I have so many players. I had relationships, so many head coaches. And I was so fortunate to work with so many wonderful people. And like I said in camp last week, to have a number of them. Lomas Brown was there. Lomas and Anthony Bellino took their radio show to Canton Wednesday night. And Lomas and I came in the same year. Yeah. And I love that guy. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure, in addition to Matthew, he's standing on that stage someday, because he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it.
The great Bill Keenist with us. More with him. I want to get into some more stories, some good and maybe some bad. We'll do that coming up next with BK.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Bill Keenist with us, Locked On Lions, for a Tuesday. Hall of Famer and a longtime VP of Communications for the Lions, 36 years in that role with the organization. There was a lot, Bill. You and I there's a lot of stories we probably can't tell.
Yeah.
But I read something that Dave Burkett wrote, and you and Dave talked, and you should talk to Dave. Obviously Dave is one of the greats and you worked with him, but you had so many Barry stories and Ndamukong Suh stories.
Yeah.
Like this, your job was not easy with some of these. Yeah. It's like, how many stars can you count that the Lions have had under Bill Keenist? Yeah. Not that many, yet you had to deal with some headaches with the stardom, did you not?
I did, but that's being a part of the team, and that's what you're paid to do. And there were some rough times. I remember, I think it was the draft of 13, maybe the draft week. And I know one was Mikel Lashur, and I forget the other player. But when a PR guy has to walk into a draft room where they are in intense preparation for the draft, I'd never done that before. But we had a couple players get in trouble for marijuana that week. And, those are the things you have to do. But, truthfully, the good far outweighed the bad. Let me, one individual that it's at the top of my list is Michigan, Detroit's own Larry Foote.
Sure.
And I always admired Larry from afar, but we signed him in 2009. 1 year, I wish it was more. And we connected early. And I remember Larry telling me he's such a baseball fan, such a Tigers fan, and Alan Trammell was his all-time hero. So I was able to work it out. Dan Petrie, I don't know if you remember this, was working with us at the time. And I don't know if it was Dan or my PR counterpart, but I thought, what more wonderful gesture could I orchestrate for Larry than to get Alan Trammell come to a training camp practice.
Yeah.
And to see an athlete like Larry, who was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, I think, his senior year, won Super Bowls with the Steelers at the highest level of his profession. When he saw Alan Trammell, it was like me if I had seen Roberto Clemente. I mean, he just melted. I'm serious. So Larry and I had a bond early on, earlier than perhaps.
Well, that's
normal.
because he played for the Steelers.
No,
you're a homer.
No. So let me tell you this, though. Won't this put goosebumps and chills on people? So the week of the opening game that year, in fact, it was Matthew's first game in New Orleans. So Larry comes to me, I'm guessing it was Wednesday, maybe Monday before the game. And he says, Billy, can you help me get a meeting room at our hotel that I can use for an hour or so as soon as we arrive at the hotel? And I go, I'm sure I can. And the team meetings didn't start till later in the day, into the evening. And then he goes, okay, can you also help me get 50 to 60 young people, middle school, high school age, boys and girls, from a boys and girls club, some type of youth center, that can come to our hotel and listen to the talk I want to give them. And each kid that shows up will get 2 tickets at his expense. He had to buy the tickets.
And it was a road game.
And I was blown away.
Yeah.
Matt, he did that every road game. No fanfare.
Wow.
He didn't want it to be a media thing. He wanted to do something. He wanted to give back. He wanted to serve the youth. And I got goosebumps right now thinking about it. And those are the type of memories and experiences that this great game has afforded me. But, and think about the impact one of those interactions that Larry had with those kids had on that child. I mean, life-changing potentially.
It is. I got to ask you, because I was a part of this. You recall the day that Ndamukong Suh hung up on Mike and Terry, and I was there, and right at the ticket. How did you deal with all of that? I mean, I was actually a Suh fan. I wanted them to re-sign him because of how good of a player he was. I didn't care about the other stuff to an extent.
Yeah.
But that day, like, we were done with him. We got Dom Raiola for the rest of the year. You at least took care of us there. But, like, do you remember that? And how do you deal with stuff like that?
Well, I'll tell you how I dealt with it. Because when you're in the business, as long as we were at that time and have been since, you have a good idea what might happen in certain situations.
Yeah.
So, and my right hand to God, I went to the people in our organization that were directly responsible for our relationship with 97.1. And I wasn't trying to talk him out of his obligation. He had an obligation to go on that show. Absolutely, he did. But I told those people that, and I didn't want to interfere, even though it was media. It was a relationship between a flagship station and the team. Different. So I told them I'm concerned about where this will go. And I actually used the phrase, I think Valenti wants this on SportsCenter tonight.
Okay. Yeah.
And guess what? It was.
It was pretty close.
So what I told them is Mike has or Terry, whoever, has every right to ask the questions. Okay. But not to keep asking the same question. Because I knew what Ndamukong was going to say.
Sure. Which was nothing.
Nothing. He was going to say, that's behind me. I'm focusing on our next game.
Right.
So
focusing
what happened?
Focusing on New Orleans.
Yeah. So what I said exactly happened the way I did, because Mike started the interview and he wanted to revisit Thanksgiving.
Sure.
And Dominican said, that's behind me. I put that behind me. He's already made a statement, not to 97.1, but a statement that the media had used. I'm looking ahead. And I was okay with Mike asking it a second time.
Yeah.
Same answer. Now, after that, in my opinion, Matt Derry would have said, okay, from a journalistic integrity standpoint, we tried, and Dominican's not going to talk about that, so let's talk about the next game. He didn't do that. He kept hammering it.
None of us did. Come on, Bill.
Well,
Terry tried, and then
he did.
And to your credit, because a lot of people ask me about that, and it's still on YouTube. They say, "Oh, Keenist." I said, to be honest, I didn't deal with Bill that day.
No,
unfortunately, Matt took the bullets.
Yeah,
Barnhart, but it was
interesting, and I wasn't surprised.
Sure,
and so, but that's part of the job. That's part of life. I mean, the station felt it was appropriate. And how that played out. I didn't. And the individual that from the organization that had talked to either Deb Kenyon or Jimmy before that assured me everything would be fine. So who knows? Who knows?
Do you still keep in touch with a guy like Dominican Sue?
You know what? I have. When he won the Super Bowl, we connected. When he had his first child, got married.
Nice.
It wasn't a relationship like I have with Matthew or Lomas or Goster or Eric Kramer or a lot of other players, but I would reach out to him, because I agree with you, Matt. Losing him after the 14th season was the beginning. That was
the end.
That was it. And we were and think of this, Matt. I don't know if you have ever played this out the way I'm going to right now, but you go back to that game in Dallas that everybody that watched it, that was there, believes if it wasn't for that call, we're going to win that game.
It was stolen, of course.
No question. So Dallas wins the game. They go to Green Bay the next week, and Des Bryant catches the ball on the half-yard line.
Right, yeah.
To win the game. No catch. So Dallas doesn't win that game. Green Bay does. Green Bay goes to Seattle for the championship game, is up by 16 points in the second half. Seattle scores on a fake field goal, and then an onside kick that the backup tight end for the Packers bounces off his chest. It's right here.
Yeah.
And then Seattle goes on to win in overtime. And by the way, the Super Bowl, hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch instead of the pass. Seattle wins the Super Bowl, but they throw that pass on the 1 yard line. So if you play that out, we've all done that in sports over the years. We were that close. So what would have happened? We'll never know the following year if we had kept Ndamukong. And I say this respectfully. I don't think Ndamukong really wanted to leave, no matter what the buzz was and the chatter. And I have pretty reliable reasons to think that.
Yeah.
And I also...
You guys botched that. You know, they did. Not you, but...
No, I know.
The organization, that was not their best day.
Yeah. So,
final thing for you.
Go ahead.
This team, you're not a part of it anymore. All right. You're around this. I know you're at Ford Field. I know the league has you there once in a while, but like, what's happening now? Are you like sitting there at home some days going, oh my God, like this is holy hell. Like the Lions are an upper echelon organization.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll tell you when it really hit me. And I'm fortunate in my role with the NFL that I'm working a game every week, some remotely from my home office, primetime games, Thanksgiving, Thursday night, playoff games, and certainly the ones in Detroit. I'm there. But the thing that overwhelmed me was after the first playoff game since 93, right?
Yeah.
Since Eric Kramer and the Lions played the Packers. Or actually that home game.
Yeah. The Sterling Sharp.
Yeah. So
sorry I brought that.
in my PR role, not unlike you, we get there real early and we leave real late. There's the stadium's empty when we arrive and it's empty when we leave. But in my new role, I get to leave about 20 minutes after the game. So I pack up, it's an incredible game. Matthew played fantastic. The Lions played fantastic. And I'm just sort of like in a cloud. I mean, it was so many emotions, and just the way the crowd was and everything. When I encountered something I wasn't expecting. When I walked out of Ford Field, there were still probably 10,000 people in the stadium. No one wanted to leave.
No.
And then I get outside and I see that massive humanity cheering, screaming, yelling, hugging, kissing, singing the fight song. And it's everybody from everywhere unified by this football team. Not unlike what the Pistons did and the Red Wings have done and the Tigers. But for me to experience that, it blew me away. And I thought, this is why sports is so important in our culture, but especially a place like Detroit, where sports are critically important. The pride factor, the grit that we hear about with the Lions and Tigers and everybody so often. But to see that joy, what else does that in our community? Nothing.
Especially this franchise. This is whether they've been horrible. You were there for 0-16. You were there for 93, like you said. This is the king in town, no matter what.
Yeah.
Bill, congrats, my man, on going in. Award of Excellence to the Hall of Fame. I know the ceremony last weekend was awesome. The fam was there. I saw Champion posting some pics. Your son Chris, who's who's insane, as you know.
Chris is a big fan of yours, by the way.
I'm a big Chris Keenist fan.
Yeah.
We share something that I won't mention, but as you know,
and I probably won't ask.
And as I told people, I referred to Allen Park now as 222 Rodwood Drive, but it used to be 222 Keenist Drive.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
That's what I used to call it. But great to see you, man. Congrats on everything, and so well deserved.
Thank you so much.
There he is, folks. The great Bill Keenist joining us. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun to hear stories from Bill, man. The behind the scenes and Dominic Sue, Mike and Terry story. Doesn't get much better than that. But congratulations to Bill going in. Award of Excellence in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his years of service with the Lions and now working for the league, helping out in communications. That'll do it for a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. We are back again tomorrow.